Welcome back to Lefnir's Life Hacks. In this episode, I'm going to talk about treadmill desks, or walking pads, or fitness desks. Whatever you want to call them, I'll call them treadmill desks. This to me is my favorite episode. It's my favorite topic. I don't know why I'm obsessed with these things, these under-desk treadmills. Most of my friends can't get me to shut up about them. Of all of the episodes in this series, I think the most important episode is going to be the Attention is All You Need episode about mindfulness. But this is my favorite episode. Not the most important, but my favorite. What is a treadmill desk? You take a treadmill and you put it under a standing desk or an electric sit-stand desk, and you walk at, let's say, 1 to 2 miles per hour while you work. So the standing desk is at its highest setting, and you're just walking very slowly on a treadmill, not trying to break a sweat while you work. And the benefits here are improved concentration and alertness and attention by way of improved blood flow and released endorphins into the bloodstream. And just motion, just the general motion of walking is occupying your cerebellum, the jitters part of your brain. So this is really good for people with ADHD, myself included. I have very, very bad ADHD. I used to be on all sorts of medication like Adderall. But once upon a time, I had to stop taking Adderall, and I went absolutely berserk. Couldn't find a solution that helped quite as much as a treadmill desk. Treadmill desks helped my ADD as significantly as medication did, truly as significantly as Adderall. So by occupying the jitters part of your brain, you are helping with the focus. And by releasing endorphins into the bloodstream and increasing blood flow and also naturally increasing water intake, you are improving just your mental alertness in general. And so this is one of the best hacks I have for everybody who works at a desk, any technologist, anybody who's at a computer. So what do? You get a standing desk, a sit-stand desk. You want one that both sits and stands, ideally an electric one that has all sorts of heights. And then you get an under-desk treadmill or a walking pad. Those are typically what they're called, a walking pad or an under-desk treadmill. And an under-desk treadmill is different from a commercial treadmill, a traditional treadmill that you're used to. The first difference is that they lack what's called the console, right? So the part that protrudes upward above the walking pad and then has the console or the display panel on it with all the control buttons and the display screens that show you your workout metrics like your speed, time, incline, etc. Everything above the walking surface is removed so that you can place the treadmill under your standing desk, because if you had the console, it wouldn't fit under a desk. And they do have treadmills that have a desk affixed to the treadmill's console itself, so it's an all-in-one walking desk, but I don't recommend those. I recommend getting your own sit-stand electric desk and your own treadmill. That way you can make sure that you get a good desk and a good treadmill rather than something that tries to be a jack of all trades. Difference number one between a commercial treadmill and a walking pad is that the walking pads don't have the console. And what that does is it reduces the cost of the treadmill itself, because they don't have to put in all those parts and labor into the manufacturing process of the console. So already the cost is reduced. And just to skip ahead, some of these things are between $200 and $500. So you don't have, where a commercial treadmill can typically be, let's say, $2,500. Another thing they do with these walking pads is that they have smaller motors. The motors max out at about 2.5 horsepower. And that's because the maximum speed of these walking pads are typically, let's say, 3 miles per hour to 3.5 miles per hour. Some of them go up to 6, but it's fairly rare. A lot of them cap out at about 3. And the reason they do that is if you're using this thing specifically for walking at a walking desk, then you're not going to be going any more than 3.5. I dabble with 3 myself. I try to push the limits. If I'm going 3 miles an hour, I'm definitely wearing gym clothes and I'm sweating and I'm a little bit less stable at the mouse and keyboard, but I like to just go hardcore sometimes. So I can vouch for you're not likely to go over 3 miles per hour, if that. And so by having a reduced maximum speed of the device, they can have a smaller horsepower motor, which is cheaper and which can more safely accommodate the device's max speed. So All in all, these devices are significantly cheaper than a commercial treadmill because they're slimmed down to only handle walking. So you put a treadmill under your desk, an under desk treadmill or a walking pad, and you raise your sit stand desk to its maximum height. Now, you're going to use your keyboard and mouse. You may be thinking that this will reduce the stability of your usage of the keyboard and mouse. It may reduce the precision with which you point and click. That is not generally the case. It is partially true, very, very subtly true, but you adapt quite well. Very easily, you will adapt to regained precision at the mouse and keyboard. I personally do not notice a difference whatsoever in my stability at the mouse or keyboard, whether I'm walking or sitting. Now, I don't remember if I did notice a difference when I first got started, but at least now, some years into the game, I don't notice a difference whatsoever. So you adapt. In the worst case scenario, let's say it may start a little rickety, but you'll adapt. In the best case scenario, there is no adjustment needed and you'll be just fine. Now, I talked about the focus benefits of these treadmill desks, namely your improved blood flow and endorphins, and motion helps with focus both at the chemical level of your brain and at just the behavioral level of getting the jitters out of your system, like a fidget spinner, especially consequential for people with ADHD. But all the chemical side of things is consequential to everybody. Everybody will improve their focus while working at a treadmill desk. It's quite marked. It's very incredible. I have a lot of friends who have started using this. They thought that their focus would be reduced because it's something that they have to account for, maintaining balance and stability with one part of your brain while you're trying to work with your other. It's quite the opposite. And I have found that to be across the board. Everybody I know who uses a treadmill desk, not just the people with ADHD who need to get that jitters out. Everybody I know who uses a treadmill desk finds that it improves their focus. But the obvious improvement, of course, is weight loss and health and fitness. So when you go 1 mile per hour on a treadmill, let's say you work the full 8 hours of the day. Now, that might be a tall order. So give or take, let's say that you're taking breaks. You really only walk 6 miles during that day. Well, 5 miles roughly equates the 10,000 step recommendation by the CDC, right? The CDC recommends we get 10,000 steps in every day, and that's a sufficient exercise regime or workout program. Most people don't do that. Most people don't track their steps to 10K and call it a day. A lot of them go to the gym. They go to the gym and they run on the treadmill, or they use the elliptical, or they use weights and all these things for, let's say, 45 minutes every day. And that's the sort of exchange rather than counting 10,000 steps. They work out at the gym for 45 minutes. But if you were to do it the steps way and only count your steps and not go to the gym, it is sufficient to walk 10,000 steps every day and call it a day. You have your workout in the bag. And that roughly equates 5 miles. So on an off-ish day on a walking desk, 1 mile an hour to, let's say, 6 hours, that is over the CDC recommendation. In other words, you don't need to use the gym. Now, I know that that's a little bit of a risky statement here. I've told this to a lot of people and they say, hey, that's not fair. It's too specific of a program. Walking doesn't cover the breadth of what's needed for improving the body's muscular skeletal system and improving your lungs through a rigorous cardiovascular regimen. And that is true. Variety is the spice of life when it comes to working out and exercise and fitness. But if you were to just look at it from a technical perspective, just a numbers game, and you're really strapped on time, I personally am, and you just want to know what could you technically do at a very minimum to squeak by and yet get a thorough exercise that meets the recommendation, you could just walk every day on the treadmill at a standard pace, not totally all day, and meet that need. Now, here's why I'm a little bit confident in making such a bold claim, right? Instead of you can totally rule out the gym from your life and you don't even have to run or rigorous pace and whatnot. Here's the reason I'm comfortable making such a bold claim. I personally walk 3 miles per hour almost 8 hours a day. Now, my doctor considers that excessive exercise. I'm doing it too much, too far. I should not go to the gym if that's the level to which I'm taking my exercise regime. And that's true. I really should tone it down. So I am being stupid with how far I'm taking it, but it is what it is. The point is, there's a range between X and Y, in between which it is highly likely that you will meet your workout needs without having to take the time and money to go to the gym. Now, time and money. Going to the gym is, let's say, $30 a month at LA Fitness, Planet Fitness. Not too much money, right? But time, you might think you need 45 minutes or maybe even 30 minutes to work out. But if you think about it, you got to get ready, then you drive or you walk to the gym, and then you start your routine, and then you shower there or you shower at home, etc. All in all, door to door, the entire experience generally looks more like an hour to 2 hours every day. 2 hours every day for a week is 14 hours. So you have 7 full work days-ish that you could reclaim by just having a treadmill desk. So this is the ultimate in 2 birds, 1 stone. You improve your focus and your concentration, your alertness, your happiness, your wellness, and you improve your fitness and your overall health, all while removing the need to go to the gym and saving time and money. Okay, let's talk about treadmills. Not all treadmills are created equally. The range of costs goes between $200 and $2,600. I mean, well, the upper range, there is no upper range. They just go up and up and up and up. But there's a very popular upper range treadmill called the Lifespan TR5000 at $2,200. $2,200. Lifespan TR5000. That is the go-to for the wealthy. For those who want a treadmill that they know is built to last, they're willing to spend plenty of money to not be fussed. I will punt on that. I'm going to actually not recommend the TR5000, even for those of you who might have the money for it. So hold your horses before you jump to that conclusion. But just know that the Lifespan TR5000 is what you're going to see online recommended the most for quality treadmills. But hold the phone on that. I'm going to talk you out of it, frankly. Let's start at the lower end of the spectrum. The Urivo, they have all sorts of different products. I think there's a Spacewalk E3 is in vogue right now, is $200. $200 compared to $2,200. That is a significant price gap. Now, when I compare treadmill desks, when I compare treadmills, I go through a big process. Some of them I test. Some of them I go very rigorously through the reviews, and I go through all the discussions online. I'm really active in the Treadmills subreddits and the Walking Desks subreddits and whatnot. Urivo is very well received. I'm only going to cover just a handful of ones here that hit it out of the ballpark in the community. Urivo is one of those. Urivo has very high reviews and a very good 1-star SKU regime. A 1-star SKU in reviews goes like this. If you hover over the reviews widget on Amazon, if you hover over the stars, it'll show you the distribution of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 stars. And if you have a 4.5 star rated product and you hover over it, but you see that only, let's say, 50 to 60% of that distribution is in the 5-star bar, and still that gives it some weighting on that 5-star bar, but that the 1-star bar has about 7 to 10%. So it's hard to explain, but you might imagine like a U where it's high on the 5 and high on the 1. A U, or a C rather, that usually means that there's too many 1-star reviews, which typically either means that the 5 stars are fake, that it's fake reviews, or more often than not that there's a quality assurance issue at play. It's a sort of luck of the draw where a fair amount of people had good luck with the product, but a non-trivial amount of people had bad luck with the product. Usually the motor goes out. Some popular treadmills in this category are Go Plus, and the product Walking Pad, without a space between the words. I've said the word walking pad a lot in this episode. Imagine a space between the words walking and pad and everything in lowercase. I'm talking generally about walking pads, the concept. There is actually a company or a product line called Walking Pad with a capital W and a capital P and no space in between. They did a great job with marketing. I think, frankly, their killing blow there was landing the name walking pad, which is a search term people are looking for. They sell like hotcakes, but they have a very strong 1-star SKU, and I see a ton of complaints about them online. Not just on Amazon, but just over the years. I've seen it come up a lot. Walking Pad and Go Plus have very strong 1-star SKUs, indicating very poor quality issues. And Urivo does not. Urivo has a very healthy rating distribution. I see a lot of people having great success with those treadmills. Urivo, Urevo. Like I said, not all treadmills are created equally. And the reason I'm going to just cover the Urivo is because those are treadmills which are well received, high reviews. However, there's plenty of other treadmills out there that are well received with high reviews. These are treadmills, unlike others, that have a 3% incline. A 3% incline. So people often wonder, is it better to walk or run with or without an incline? With or without? And if so, how much? The answer is with, and it's 3%. Now, I'm going to link some articles into the show notes of this podcast when I release it to prove it to you. But there have been studies, it has been explored, and the answer is 3%. It seems to recur commonly across sports medicine specialists and health practitioners that do dive into this independent of each other. They all seem to land on the number 3. 3%. That's the incline you want. No more, no less. And the focus of incline is regarding knee health. Knee health. More than your ankles and your shins and even your back and posture, the part of your body most likely to be impacted by walking for excessive amounts of time is going to be your knees. And so for whatever reason, 3% is the optimal incline for knee health. From what I understand, it's something about the incline reduces the impact because the distance between when your foot comes up and around and lands is reduced. And there's such a slight climb that it feels a little bit more like climbing than high impact, sort of slamming your way along a flat surface. In particular, evidently, flat surfaces for treadmills is one of the worst, whereas a little bit of flexibility on the incline, let's say plus or minus 2% from 3, is a little bit better. So we want to avoid those flat treadmills and focus on 3% incline treadmills. And so there's only a handful of treadmills that support that. The Urivos have adjustable inclines, and the newer ones more and more are focusing towards that 3%. Either they have an on-off incline, either flat or 3%, and those are your only two options. Or they have an adjustable incline anywhere in between, but they have some easy setting for 3%. So 3% is that target incline that you want to focus on. And then that brings us all the way back up to the lifespans. And so that's why I said you may want to actually consider one of these budget alternatives, is that the lifespans don't have an incline at all. So the lifespans are more quality hardware, higher quality hardware. They're marketed to allow you to walk for 6 hours at one time, 6 hours of consecutive walking. And they can take 400 pounds of weight. So the Urivo's maximum weight is 265 pounds. So it's a big jump all the way onto the Lifespan TR5000's 400 pounds. So the lifespans are significantly more sturdy, and they can take more of a beating, and they can withstand longer walking periods. Neither the Urivo, I think, would recommend 6 hours of consecutive walking. Instead, they would recommend probably taking a break periodically, maybe let's say every half hour to hour. I think that's beneficial anyway. You're not going to be walking for an hour without wanting to grab a glass of water, go to the bathroom, and just give the treadmill a little bit of breathing time to dissipate some of that heat. Now, a little bit of maintenance notes on these treadmills. You have to lubricate them. I do it once per week. The recommendation is every 50 hours of walking. You want to apply lubrication, silicone lubricant, between the belt and the walking pad in a zigzag formation. You apply it on both sides of the belt. You run it for 1 mile per hour for 1 minute or so. And then there's this thing called belt drift. From time to time, some of these treadmills will have the belt move more towards the left or to the right side on the back of the treadmill. If you let that go on too long, then it can end up damaging the belt. So you use an Allen wrench and you tighten the side where the belt is too close. Let's say a half turn to tighten the Allen wrench, keep it running for a little bit, see if it's adjusted itself. If so, good, you walk away. I have videos comparing the different treadmills, showing me using it, showing you the level of stability I have at the mouse and keyboard when I'm walking on it, as well as some of these maintenance tasks. One final consideration is that some of these treadmills have different options for extended warranties. And if you're dealing with a budget treadmill, you probably want an extended warranty just in case. I have not had to deal with one myself, but you never know. And so I do recommend getting one of those extended warranties, something like Assurion's 3-year warranty. The reason that's a consideration is that some of these are sold on Amazon, some of them are sold only on their websites. So the availability of extended warranties are different from treadmill to treadmill. For example, the Urivo is sold on Amazon, so they have availability of that extended warranty. And then Lifespan, I'm sure they have their own system going on, but since they are serviceable treadmills, you're probably less impacted by the need for an extended warranty. All right, so that is the treadmills side of thing. I will have links to all of these in my show notes so you can find them very easily. The rest of your setup goes like this. You're going to have a sit-stand desk, an electric standing desk that can either be in standing formation or sitting formation. And the reason you want this, rather than just a standing desk, a fixed standing desk, is because when you're not walking, you should be sitting. You should preserve your knees as much as possible. Once upon a time, I tried to come up with a setup where I never sat, where I was never on my butt, because I really bought into the whole sitting is bad for you, bad for your posture, bad for your blood flow, bad for your health. That may be true all in all, but everything in moderation. And if you're walking most of the day, sitting is better than overextending your muscular skeletal structure, your musculoskeletal your musculoskeletal system, your knees. So what happened was I had a standing board, a wobble board called a fluid stance, plain cloud. I'll link that. It's actually a really good standing board. It took me a really long time to land on that. I went through a lot of different wobble boards and standing discs and balance boards and pads and all these things. And the best in class was this thing called the Fluid Stance Plain Cloud. What's so special about it is that it wobbles ever so slightly, and it has cushion on top, and it is shoulder width apart. Of those three things, any other board has one, whereas this has all three. And by being a wobble board, you're sort of shifting your weight in micro adjustments to and fro that sort of keeps a lot of the pressure off any one knee at any given time. It's better for your knee health for standing than some of the other options. But what happened was I would walk all day and then I'd switch to standing on that. And now I'm just putting pressure on my knees unnecessarily when my knees need to rest. They need to rest from all that walking, and your knees do need to rest. It's a lot of walking. So I discourage standing desks unless that's your only option. If you cannot have a treadmill, let's say this is at the office and your company won't allow it or something, but you are allowed to have a standing desk, in which case I do recommend something like the Fluid Stance Plain Cloud. If you can't have a walking desk, then a standing desk is great. But if you can have a walking desk, the only other thing you should be doing is sitting, not standing. So get a good electric desk that sits and stands. I personally have the Flexi Spot. I'll link to that. I haven't researched it thoroughly, so you'll want to do a little bit of your own research, but I like it. As for the monitors, you'll want to position them in a way that you can look dead on at the monitors. So you look straight through to your primary monitor, perpendicular spine as you're walking. And the thing that allows this the best is monitor arms. So rather than using a monitor stand that it comes with, it pays to have monitor arms affixed to the back of your desk, which allow you to swivel these monitors into place. It also allows you to extend your monitor cluster for dual monitors and whatnot while having extra desk space. The keyboard and mouse is the most important consideration that you wouldn't think of in this scenario. The keyboard and mouse need to be ergonomic. And I recommend a trackball mouse and a split mechanical tented keyboard. Now, before I go into those, let me tell you why it's so important with a walking desk. One thing that leads to repetitive stress injury, or RSI, is the motion of your wrist in moving a mouse and the crimping of your wrists inwardly when using a keyboard. So these angles and these motions aren't good for your wrists or your thumb joints, or even sometimes your shoulders and your elbows. And this leads to something called repetitive stress injury, or RSI. And so people who develop these issues tend to move towards a trackball mouse. A trackball, I'm sure you've seen these from like your uncle of the 1980s. They're very unusual mice. They have a giant ball in the center and buttons all around it. And a split mechanical keyboard. So a mechanical keyboard meaning that key switches register clicks in a more precise way, so it's a little bit easier on your joints and knuckles. But split means it's cut in half right down the center of the keyboard. It's cut in half and separated out so that you can have the two halves of your keyboard as far out as they need to be to gain a bit of a 90-degree angle with your arms. You really want to be robotically perpendicular to the standing or walking surface. So you get this keyboard splits separated as far as you possibly can to maintain shoulder width and a very comfortable, healthy 90-degree down and 90-degree forward angle of your arms. And then in particular, a lot of these split keyboards have what's called tenting, where they angle up about 45 degrees so that you get your wrists angled outward. Now, the reason these ergonomic peripherals, the ergonomic mouse and keyboard, are so important with walking desks in particular, more than just generally, I mean, I recommend these things for everybody, but more than general use case, they're especially important with walking desks is because when you're walking, you're sort of moving back and forth, up and down. You're kind of bouncing up and down, and you're swaying forward and backward. And it's not so bad that you'll lose stability at the mouse and keyboard level in precision, but it is bad enough that there's motion that is now translated into your wrists and joints that wasn't there before, or was there before, but not nearly as severe. So you're more at risk of RSI in a walking desk than you are at a sitting desk. Now, you don't have to buy these things right away. You can just keep your normal mouse and keyboard and get a walking desk and just see how it goes. Just try it out for some months. But if you start to feel any pain in your joints, your wrist or your thumbs, you'll know, you heard this here, that it's time to upgrade to ergonomic peripherals. And you'll be glad you did. These things I'm never going back. Sitting desk or standing desk, it doesn't matter. I actually, now that I have these ergonomic peripherals, I can't imagine not having them. They're just so wonderful. I personally have the Slim Blade Pro for the mouse. It's a trackball, it's a finger trackball mouse, and the Mistel Baracco MD770 keyboard. I'll link these in the show notes, but a lot of people use the Glove 80. The Glove 80 is a very popular keyboard. And another thing to note is that when you're walking at a walking desk, you're building up static electricity in your body from the walking motion. And if you touch metal or electronics, it'll transfer that static electricity as a shock, a discharge into the metal or electronics. And this can damage your electronics over time. So if you were to touch a metal keyboard or a metal mouse after walking for some time that is wired to your computer or your laptop, it could transfer that static electricity up the wire to your laptop, and it could potentially harm the circuitry. Now, take that with a grain of salt. I don't know the level to which modern circuitry is designed to withstand some amount of electrostatic discharge. But what I have noticed is that when I accidentally touch metal parts in my computing environment when I'm walking, my monitors flicker. I have two monitors and they both flicker for a second. And that's very concerning to me because it went from the metal to the laptop to the monitors. And so that's a lot of transfer of ESD. So the solution there is you buy plastic mice and keyboards. Now, you probably don't need to worry about this. The two that I just listed are plastic mice and keyboards. I did not buy them because they're plastic. It just so happens they are. In fact, I don't have any peripherals. I'm kind of a peripheral nut. I have lots of mice and keyboard. I love experimenting with different peripherals, and none of them are metal enough to cause a problem here. So 9 times out of 10, you won't have to face this issue. But if you just so happen to have metal peripherals, what you want to get is a electrostatic discharge wristband, an ESD wristband that you wrap around your wrist. You buy it on Amazon, and you clamp it to some grounded metal component of your desk or something. And it just continuously flows the ESD out of your body and into the metal so that it doesn't transfer to your electronics. So that is walking desks. So to wrap it all up, get a sit-stand electric desk, get some ergonomic peripherals. I do recommend some monitor arms. It makes the whole desk setup a little bit easier. And on the treadmill side of things, on the budget side is the Urevo. Have a 3% incline, which I highly, highly recommend for optimal knee health for long-term usage. And on the high end of the spectrum is the Lifespan TR5000.